The World Cup may be over, but the bullshit never stops because Gianni Infantino is trying to sell the World Cup, and the future of the tournament is hanging in the balance as UEFA is threatening to boycott future tournaments. Okay, so what exactly is going on here? FIFA boss Gianni Infantino is proposing to raise $20 billion for the organization by selling equity in the tournament. Infantino plans to, quote, unleash the commercial potential and opportunity that FIFA has, as if hydration breaks didn't already do that. For reference, hydration break ad slots ran at $8 million per slot for an estimated $250 million in added revenue for broadcasters. So it's easy to see how this hyper-commercialization of the sport could continue in a similar way in future. We all know we are never going to have a World Cup without hydration breaks again. So for context, FIFA is technically a not-for-profit, but it is expected to generate $15 billion from the 2026 tournament alone once it's all tallied up. So this new proposal plans to create a new subsidiary called the FIFA Forward Enterprise, which would take control of commercial and event operations, including but not limited to ticketing, broadcasting, licensing, and sponsorships. FIFA says it would still own and control the organization through, quote, majority board representation and exclusive authority over football governance, competitions, the international match calendar, and all regulatory and sporting decisions. And Josh Kushner, aka Carly Kloss's husband and Jared Kushner's brother, Jared Kushner being Donald Trump's son-in-law for those playing along at home, runs the investment company that is leading the search for investors. So what could possibly go wrong here? So in exchange for, selling the World Cup for parts to the highest bidder, FIFA has offered $20 million to each of the 211 associations on approval. Overall, the cash difference would be around $86 million over 12 years, compared to the existing $36 mil. So it would be a huge cash injection. The proposal is subject to approval by a majority of national associations and FIFA's 37-member council, but not all member nations are particularly happy about it. So UEFA slammed the proposal as, quote, a line that football's governing institutions should never cross. They added that, quote, none of us are the owners of football. It is not FIFA's to sell. Obviously, if UEFA boycott the tournament, it would render the whole thing largely redundant. And it wouldn't be the first time they threatened to boycott. So back in 2021, they threatened to boycott when Infantino proposed a new 2-year World Cup cycle. And as we all know, they're already not a huge fan of the whole Club World Cup thing that they think is a direct challenge to the Champions League. So a boycott doesn't feel out of the realm of possibilities here. According to reports, Infantino has given members a 53-day deadline until September 19 to either back his plans or face what would be a 75% reduction in potential funding. He has warned that any member who opposes the plan now would be cut out of the funding model if it does eventually go through, which feels a little dictatorial if you ask me. So Sky News reports that the letter sent to members said, quote, should neither condition be satisfied, FIFA will continue as planned with the Forward Program 4.0, meaning approximately $10 million per member for the next cycle, calling it, quote, a singular and unique funding opportunity only for those member associations who wish to participate, with their decision to be made by September 19, 2026, so we can plan ahead with the funds to be available immediately as of January 1, 2027. So basically, Gianni Infantino has said, if you don't support me, you will not get your pocket money. So UEFA aren't fucking around here. They responded immediately with a statement stating, quote, today we have learned of FIFA's deadline to associations to support their proposals or have the one-off payout offer withdrawn. This says everything you need to know about this plan. But having held discussions with many stakeholders across the game, UEFA knows there is significant and growing opposition to FIFA's scheme. FIFA cannot continue to use our sport to enrich themselves and their friends. We can grow the game correctly. It is time to prioritize associations, clubs, leagues, players, and fans. Like I said, they're not fucking around here. So what has everyone else said? Czechia was the first country to throw support behind it, with Czech football president David Trunda breaking ranks to tell Sky Sports that, quote, his personal point of view is I can see the positive impact of FIFA's intentions. The English, on the other hand, have taken it to another level, with the new PM Andy Burnham jumping on social media to echo UEFA's sentiment. He said, quote, "The World Cup is not a product. It is the greatest competition in world sport and it was never anyone's to sell. Dress up the deal however you like. Once you have sold a piece of it, you have sold out. Football belongs to the fans. It always has and it always will." So the English FA also shared this feeling, saying they lack substantive details but were, quote, "deeply concerned by the lack of process and governments to get to this point." The North and Central American Football Association and the Asian Football Confederation also issued statements of disappointment in the way the situation has been handled. But even if the big fish oppose the proposal, it could still go through because FIFA works on a one member, one vote principle. Democracy, allegedly. So even if every Euro nation boycotts the tournament, 156 other associations still get to vote. And a number of those nations are struggling financially, which is probably what Gianni Infantino is banking on. I mean, we saw this at the World Cup. You see a country like Cape Verde go to a World Cup, have an incredible performance and want to fund football in their country. But without FIFA funding, a lot of them can't. It's not to say that any of these countries necessarily support the decision, but I can see how they might be persuaded to vote for it. So will we see smaller nations more desperate for cash support the proposal out of pure self-preservation? And perhaps more importantly, will Infantino survive this? So the other side of this story is that Infantino is up for re-election in 2027 and currently sits unopposed. So he's got 200 formal endorsements from member nations, and it's basically expected to be a landslide. But if this plan fails, it could pave the way for a rival candidate to swoop in and take his precious FIFA presidency from him. Or, hear me out, is this his way of building his exit strategy? So the way FIFA works is that you can only be president for 3 terms. Infantino technically gets around this because his first term wasn't a full term, but it means that this 4th term that he's about to go for in 2027 will definitively be his last, unless he pulls some Trump bullshit and changes the rules. So is this all part of an exit strategy plan? Is he building the FFE so he can effectively create his own future job, develop a CEO position that he can slot right into at the end of his presidency and ride off into the sunset? Only time will tell. But if there's one thing I know to be true, it is that what goes up must come down. At the last World Cup, we had the Tom Glover bucket incident. This time, we have Infantino trying to sell the World Cup. There's always some bullshit when it comes to the World Cup. Let me tell you.